That'd be great, except for Sebastian. And okay. And we will say if everyone muted themselves, that'd be awesome. Okay, hello and welcome to another Zoom meeting and podcast of Here's Tom with the Weather, where we investigate the plethora of higher powers that populate the vast universe of 12-step recovery, where alcoholics and addicts can riff out on steps 3 and step 11 as prescribed by the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous, who encourage us to find some kind of higher power as long as it's not us. We speak to people with all manner of higher powers, from those who are atheists, Sufis, agnostics, Christians, Jews, Buddhists, followers of Islam, Hermetics, paganists, non-duality. We leave no stone unturned. It's our aim to promote understanding and open-mindedness so that alcoholics and addicts can find a higher power of their own to stay sober and carry that message. At this podcast, we promote tolerance and empathy for folks who might just have different spiritual practices than us. It's all about live and let live. And please remember, this is not an AA meeting or an NA meeting. It's just some people's version of the truth. And just a couple of quick messages before I go on. As I've said, we have a website now where you can go to www.htwtw.com. And that's obviously stands for Here's Tom with the Weather. And also just a reminder that this is our final episode in this series. We're having some time off, but we will be back in September, the first Friday in September, where we have a whole load of exciting new super spiritual guests like we've got today, because it's my honor and it's a great privilege today to introduce you to Sebastien Blacksley. How are you, Sebastian?
I'm doing fine. Thank you, David, and thanks everyone for inviting me to join you, and thank you for bringing light to this world.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you here. And just give you a quick bio about Sebastian. Sebastian is a native of Buenos Aires, Argentina, and he was born into a large traditional Catholic family in 1968. He attended the Colegio del Salvador, a Jesuit school of which the headmaster was none other than Jorge Bergoglio, or who is now known as the current Pope Francis. Sebastian enjoyed sport in his youth, and this was very impressed to me. He particularly likes rugby. At the age of 6, Sebastian was involved in a near-fatal accident, during which he heard a voice which he later identified as Jesus. More recently, Sebastian receives, transcribes, and shares what the voice of Christ, the voice of love, mystically dictates to him. Most recently, he has received an astonishing and most beautiful and uplifting series of messages from heaven, resulting in the Choose Only Love series of 7 books, the first of which was published in October 2019, which was where I first heard about Sebastian. I actually read that book. And to the present date, 5 of the 7 books have been published, with the final 2 books due for release throughout 2021. And he has been described as being the pencil in the hand of God. And that's a hell of an introduction. So, Sebastian, just want to start off with, and let's get right down to it. Can you tell us about that accident and the voice that you heard, the situation where you heard the voice? What was the voice like? What did it sound like? Can you tell us how you led up to hearing the voice of Christ, please?
Sure, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to share that experience with all of you. It was at the age of 6 or almost 7 years old. I was in the car with my mother and my brothers and sisters at that time, and when my mother tried to go across the one space where there was a railway, then a train crashed with the car, and one of my brothers, whose name is Peter, died because of that accident. And I jumped behind the train, and at that moment immediately when I went into the floor because of the accident, I was in a situation that was very risky for me, because if I move just, let's say, couple of centimeters, I would die because of the train. So it was a situation of, extreme risk for me at that moment. And I felt immediately a presence who embraced my body. So my body didn't move. And that was what the body needed at that time, not to be, hurt by the train. And after the train passed through, that presence took me away from that place, like 5 or 6 meters away from there. So when I was moved into that place, I was out of any risk and without any participation of myself. I was moved into that place, and someone took me and allowed me to stand up. And that presence started to say to me, "Don't be afraid. I am with you." And when I hear that voice, I knew immediately that that was Jesus, and that I knew him from all eternity, and that that presence knew me perfectly well from all eternity as well. And I felt absolutely in love with that voice and with that presence. And he was with me during all the time in which I was in the accident, and also when I was carried and brought to the hospital. And when I was at the hospital, he was with me saying constantly, "Don't be afraid. I am with you." And when that voice said to me, "Don't be afraid," no fear could be possibly be with me. I felt protected, embraced, and absolutely at peace because of that presence. And after that moment, I realized that I knew a love that is not from the world, and I fell in love with that voice. And that presence of Jesus, and also of our Immaculate Mother Mary, have been with me every day from that moment until present. So that is basically my experience. The experience of is one of the experiences that I had about the Epiphany, which is the encounter with Christ. That is one of them, but there are many others. Thank you for asking.
No, it's my pleasure, and thank you very much. And like I say, I've read the first book, and I'm in the middle of reading the third book. And the first book is I love the first book. It was certainly it was an epiphany for me to read it. So thank you very much. I just want to go back to you knew that it was Jesus. So just for anyone here, because obviously we do encourage people to be open-minded and to give everything a fair go. How did you know that it was Jesus and it was Mother Mary? Is it an instinctive thing? Did they identify themselves to you? How was it that it actually? How did you know that that was Jesus?
I just simply know that it's like when you see someone who you know and you don't need any introduction. Our spirit knows perfectly well who Christ is.
Hmm.
So we don't need any introduction and we don't need any explanation. We just know. We just know. And without any intellectual, process or something like that, we simply know. And we don't need any word, any introduction. It's like when you come to this world, you know what love is. No one explained you what love is. But when you find love, and when love comes to your life, you simply know that that is love. And there's no need to give any explanation.
That leads me on, because that just leads on to the next question I was going to ask you, because Choose Only Love is the title of your series of books. When you say love, what does that mean? What is love? We're not talking about the love between two people and sexual attraction. We're not talking about a man and a father for his son or anything. What do you mean? What does the word love mean in this sense?
Thank you for that question. That's the essential question of the universe. Once we answer that question from our heart, we understand everything in the wisdom of God. Love is not what we do. It's not something we feel or something we do. Love is what we are. Something that I really found in these revelations is that love is our essence and is the essence of the universe and the essence of creation. So the key message of Choose Only Love is to answer the question of who you are, who am I? And that's the same question as you asked, David, when we say what is all about love? Love is our identity. Love is our essence. Love is who we are. No matter what we believe, no matter what we do, our essence is love, and we are receiving the divine love constantly, because without love, we wouldn't be able to even exist. So what love is, the answer is, love is you.
Okay. You describe yourself as being, you come from a traditional Catholic family, and you use the word Jesus or Christ. Are you putting that in a Christian context, or are we talking about the Christ consciousness, which could be like Buddha, or it could be Krishna, it could be that, or are we talking specifically about the guy who is said to have walked upon the face of the earth 2,000 odd years ago and walked around the Sea of Galilee? Are we talking about that guy, or are we talking about the Christ consciousness, as I've heard people you describe it as?
Thank you also for that question, because that is basically a question that always comes to me. And the answer is that it talks about both of them. Christ is the name that we use in order to express the essence of our identity. Our being is what it is because there is an essence in that being, and that essence is Christ. And then there is a form through which that Christ is manifested. So something that comes from Choose Only Love is that we are ready to live within the integrity of the form and the essence. Christ is the essence, and our human identity is the form that expresses that identity. So Jesus is the human expression of Christ, as it is our Immaculate Mother Mary, but they are both Christ being expressed in that particular identity. And we are now called to express the Christ that we truly are with our humanity, with our identity. So Christ is the essence of who we truly are, and our humanity, in my case, Sebastian, as I am, with this body, with this personality, and with this mind and heart, is the form that shows the divine love in this world.
Okay. We've had quite a few guests on this show, on this podcast, sorry, who have conversations with God. Who do things called two-way. We've had people that do two-way prayer, and it's funny how most of the stuff is all, a lot of people are talking about the same thing. It's just dressed up in different clothes. How often do you have your conversations? How is it? Is it every day? Is it throughout the day? Is it do you write? Do you journal write? Do you sit down and do it every day? I just want to know. And is it something that we can all tap into? Can we all tap into this love? This is a 12-step podcast, so we are all about encouraging people to find a higher power. So I just want to get down to the nuts and bolts of how we could all use this love.
The simple answer to that question is that I feel the presence of Christ every single minute in my life. There is no moment in which they are not with me. And that brings me to go deeper to that answer and to share with everyone that what Choose Only Love is bringing is a message that says that we are ready to leave the direct relationship with God. There is a relationship with God, with our source, no matter how we name that or how we call that. But our spirit and our humanity has a direct relationship with that source. And we are invited to be aware of that relationship and to get into the dialogue with the source. Every relationship is a dialogue. That dialogue is constantly happening in our heart between our source and what we truly are. And we are able to get into that dialogue and to live within that dialogue every single minute of our life, because that's the reason why we have been created, to be in the dialogue of the creation, which is the dialogue between the source of love and the manifestation of love, which is me, you, and everything that is created. So it is absolutely possible to live in a way in which you listen to the voice of God every single minute of your life. And then you live your life abandoned to that voice. And that is what happens to me. There is no moment in which I don't listen to that voice or I not within that dialogue.
Okay. I read in your book as well that you do have conversations with angels, which I found very interesting. Can you describe which angels that you speak to, and can you describe to me? Do you see them, or is that their presence? Can you describe the angels to us and who they are?
Sure. The process of receiving messages to be written and then collected in the books is as follows. I received the visitation of a choir of uncountable angels. They come to me singing a song of gratitude to God, the Creator, for giving us existence. That song of gratitude is the song of gratitude that the creation sings to the divine mercy. And they come to me singing that song of gratitude. And within that song of gratitude comes to me the voice of Christ with a message that I receive. And each message is one chapter of the books that I'm receiving and publishing right now. And those messages come to me with music and symbols and images, which are celestial symbols that cannot be expressed in human words. And after receiving that, Archangel Raphael comes to me, and he is in charge of translating those symbols and those images and music into human words. And he dictates me in Spanish first, and then in English, which are the language that I know more. And I just write what Archangel Raphael tells me to write, which is the translation of those symbols. With Archangel Raphael is always Archangel Gabriel. Archangel Gabriel doesn't give me any translation. His role is to bless and protect this manifestation, not only during the writing process and translation process, but also in everything that comes from that manifestation as an effect of this gift, of this manifestation that we are receiving through this process. And after I translate and write everything that is given to me, Archangel Raphael and Archangel Gabriel returns back to heaven, and the choir of angels returns to me, singing a song of gratitude, and they express the gratitude to our humanity, and that's it, basically.
Okay. That's that's fabulous. One of the big things that's really come up for me throughout the last year is meeting all these different people such as yourself who have different takes, again, from atheists to agnostics to people like yourself, or to the various people who practice religions and stuff. I'm very intrigued about the concept of consciousness and the presence of being alive, of being aware, if that's the right way of using it. And I just wanted to ask you what that is, and that awareness of being alive now, and that I'm present talking to you right now. What is that, and what does Jesus have to say about that? I'd be interested to know what consciousness is.
Consciousness is what allows us to know about our existence. So we have our true self, which is what we are. And the true self has our mind, and the mind through which the creation is possible. We create through our mind, and we also have our heart. So when God created us, created with a mind in which he established the truth. So our mind is able to find the truth and live by the truth. And also we have a heart that allows us to receive love and to love. So love and truth are what we truly are in union. And God gives us our unique identity. And that's very important to understand at this moment. God loves our uniqueness, because that's the reason why he gave us that uniqueness, that I, that personal and never repeated identity that we truly are. So we are the unique expression of the divine love in the way we are. That identity can be known through the divine knowledge that we receive. And that divine knowledge of who we are is known through our consciousness. So the consciousness is what allows us to know who we are and to know what everything is. And being aware of what we are and being aware of what the creation is, then our mind extends that knowledge through the truth, and our heart extends it through love. That's basically the role of the consciousness. It gives us existence, but by giving us the knowledge.
Okay. Because it's always, I mean, I'm one of these. I don't know whether I'm an agnostic or not. I kind of keep my mind well open. I try to practice step 2 and step 3 regularly because I'm trying to always work out what it is, and I've kind of left it to know. You know, I know what I know, and I was just wondering, like, for things like when you go to sleep at night, or I had an operation. I had a hip operation a couple of years ago, and they knocked me out, and there was nothing, and I woke up and I was back. And I'm just wondering what happens in that time when we aren't conscious or when we die. It doesn't seem to, and I'm being devil's advocate here. That's probably the wrong term to use, but I'm just trying to sort of say is like the consciousness is here. We go to sleep and it disappears. I don't remember. All I see is everything becomes black and time stops and I'm back awake. Do you know what I'm sort of trying to say there? What do you have to say about that? Has Jesus got anything to say about that?
Sure.
Yeah.
There is the divine consciousness, and this is something that is also in Choose Only Love, and it was a very important revelation for me that I want to share about what you are asking, David. There is the consciousness of God, the divine consciousness. Now we usually call that as the Christ consciousness. And within that Christ consciousness, it is the consciousness of our uniqueness, which we can say the limited consciousness of our humanity. When we remain in that limited consciousness of our humanity, we remain within the state of separation. So the state of separation is the state in which we use one very tiny aspect of the Christ consciousness of who we are, and we believe we are this limited being that we call human. That limited consciousness is part of our human experience, but that is not our consciousness as a totality. So when we die, what happens is that consciousness is reintegrated into the Christ consciousness, and we open our consciousness and we see the truth. And at that moment, Jesus comes to the soul, no matter what soul is, no matter how we live, no matter what we believe. He comes and he goes to the soul and asks one question. He asks to the soul, "Do you give me your soul?" And at that moment, the soul is expanded. Its consciousness is expanded into the Christ consciousness. It is absorbed into the Christ consciousness, which is the consciousness of the totality of who we truly are in God. So we see at that moment everything through the eyes of Christ, through the eyes of God. And we are able at that moment to see the magnificence of the divine mercy, because our consciousness is expanded and extended in order to be able to see that. So that was basically what happens. It's an expansion of our human consciousness, or our human limited consciousness, into the unlimited consciousness that we truly are.
Wow. Thank you very much. That's fantastic. Thank you very much. That was wonderful. Now, we're just going to have a bit of a commercial break, just to say to everyone that we have a Facebook page. Here's Tom with the weather, so please come and join. We are going to have a month and a half off, but we will be doing a few fun things in between then, so between then and the early part of September. So please, if you're joining, wherever you're listening or wherever you're watching, join us on Facebook. We also have a new website, a really swish new website, which has been done by a big friend of this podcast, by Mr. Lebowski, none other than Mr. Lebowski there. And that's at www.htwtw.com. We'll see Joe C giving the big thumbs up there. Thank you very much. And we also have a PayPal account. This is a free podcast, no charge anything. All we ask for is if for a few shekels, spondoolies, dollars, bucks, pounds, shillings, pence to go towards paying for this Zoom account. That's all we ask for. So if you've got that, we have a PayPal account, which is at gilwriter, GILWRITER @hotmail.co.uk. I'm going to ask one more question, and then I'm going to and just invite everyone as well. If you've got a question for Sebastian, please put it in chat and I'll relay it to him. But I just wanted to ask you, just when you said that fantastic answer there, Sebastian, why can't we have it now? Why can't we have this Christ consciousness and be absorbed into the Christ consciousness and ask that question now? And as people like Christ and Buddha and Ramana Maharshi and people like that, have they been afforded that opportunity to have that kind of super consciousness, if that's the right terminology?
Thank you also for that question. God is love, and the divine consciousness is the consciousness of love. And when we go to the truth, and when we open our eye into the totality of the creation, we see and know the love that we truly are. There is only love, because God is love. So the way of being in that consciousness here and now is just loving and letting ourselves be loved. When we live by the love that we truly are, we are in that consciousness. So there's no need to go anywhere to have that consciousness. There's no need to meditate. There's no need to pray. There's no need to make any practice, no matter whether that is a spiritual practice or a theological or philosophical practice. The only thing we need is to love and to live in that love constantly, loving ourselves, embracing everything that we truly are as a humanity here and now, loving our body, our mind, our heart, our life, loving everything that we truly are. Because when we love what we truly are, we can embrace everything in that love. So I would say that to live in that consciousness, the only requirement we need and we have is to love. Every time that you express love, no matter how that love is expressed, like for instance, when you cook for your husband or for your wife or for your daughters, or you just call a friend to say hello because you just love him, you are being that consciousness being expressed through your humanity. There's no separation between humanity and the divine essence. We are one within love. So the only thing we need is love.
So there's a certain amount of forgiveness there, but it's kind of like step 12 in the 12 steps is we're doing service, we're carrying that message, we're giving love. So when you say love, we're being of service to other people. Is that the sort of thing you're saying? When we're being generous, we're doing all those, we're being good, for want of a better word?
Love is what we know it is. Everyone knows what love is because we have been created with that knowledge. So everyone knows what love is in every moment. Sometimes love means forgiveness. Sometimes love is expressed through doing some service to others. Sometimes love is expressed just taking rest because you need to take rest because maybe you work a lot and you need to take rest for your body or for your mind. And sometimes love means going to the church and to express your love to your creator, to God, to the source. And sometimes love is just smiling to others. So there are uncountable ways of expressing love, and we all know how to express love in the present moment because we have been created with that knowledge. So when we respect our neighbor, when we respect someone walking down the street, when we respect ourselves, we are being the love being expressed through our humanity. Love is always complete, according to what Jesus said once to me. Love is always total, no matter how you express that. There is no something like small love or big love. There is only love or a lack of love. If you just make your dishes with love, you are extending the heaven in your reality. Because love has the capacity to create heaven in every single circumstances of our life. Mm. So love is what we know it is in every single moment. And we have many opportunities to express that with our life.
Okay. Before I'm going to hand you over to Lebowski in 1 second, just to follow up on that. Would you consider yourself to be enlightened, Sebastian? And I wonder what that word means.
You mean about myself?
Yes.
I love your question, David, and your purity. No, I don't feel, I don't call myself someone like it is enlightened or gifted or something special. I know I have what everyone has. That's very important to understand, and it's a very powerful message. God created all of us in the same way. We are not special. We all can talk to him, and in fact, we all have a direct relationship with him. Sometimes that relationship is a relationship of not having a conversation with him, but that is still a relationship. So, and sometimes we can talk to him or to express that relationship in a different way. Jesus was very clear to me when he said, we are going to have our own love story, which will never be repeated, because every single relationship is unique. So there is no specialness within the creation. There is just uniqueness, which makes us different, but at the same time, we are equal because we have the same source. So the only difference between me and the others is about my uniqueness. This is my way of expressing love to God and to others. And you all have that way of expressing love. So in that sense, there is no something like people enlightened.
Great.
We are all enlightened. We are all living in the light, and we are going to express that within our uniqueness.
Good answer. We asked that to everyone. That's probably the best answer we've had. Over to Mr. Lebowski. James, over to you, mate.
Thank you very much, David. Yes, Sebastian, I had a question. I'm actually familiar with some of the words and the way you use them, because in a way I might not have been had I not been introduced to A Course in Miracles and A Course of Love. And I know your work stands alone. I mean, I feel it does just from what you've said, but I just was curious if you were familiar with any of that and how it aligns with what you express.
Thank you, James. Yes, I'm very familiar with them. In fact, based on the way that my spiritual path was within my uniqueness, books were and are still very important. There was many times in which Christ said to me, go and pick up this book, or he just sent to me some books. And every time that I received that, there was a before and an after in my spirituality. So I could grow up with that book, with the knowledge that I received from those particular books. One of them was the writings from Saint Teresa of Avila. One of them was A Course in Miracles, which came to me in that way. And I was reading and walking through A Course in Miracles during 5 years alone. I never felt moved to join any group, but I was very, very focused on A Course in Miracles during 5 years. And after that, I listened to the voice of Christ saying that I had to stop going through that path, because something new would come to me, and that was A Course of Love. So A Course of Love came to me, and that was very significant also for me, because when I received A Course of Love, I listened to the voice of Christ saying that the time had come in order to share my direct relationship with him, to share it with others. Until that moment, my spirituality was basically focused on my intimate relationship with Jesus and Mary, so with Christ. And I didn't feel any need to go beyond that and to share that with anyone. It was just between him and myself. But after receiving Choose Only Love, I started to feel the need and the movement in my heart to share this with others. And immediately after finishing A Course of Love, I started to receive Choose Only Love, which is the second book that I received. And I created a foundation in Buenos Aires in order to extend and to share A Course of Love in Spanish in the Spanish-speaking world. And with that foundation, we share that, and we also share what I'm receiving and writing with some people who help me to do that. So I'm really familiar with that, and I know Marie Perron and everyone in that group. So thank you for asking and for bringing that knowledge.
Great
here.
answer. Yeah, that was really great to that was really inspiring, actually. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, James. Good to see you. So Ben C asked, good to see you, Ben, asks about, could you talk about that you use the word choose in the title of Choose Only Love?
Thank you for that question. That's the first time the question came to me. Choose is one of the conditions that we have in this world. We are in a world of limitations. We are in a world that we call humanity. In this dimension, let me use that word, in this dimension of time and space and form, we need to choose. And we are constantly choosing. The free will that we have in this dimension is focused on choosing, of taking options. And we are constantly choosing here. And we are constantly choosing either love or fear. And our life is a manifestation of that choice. Every single aspect of our life, everything that we do, is just a manifestation of that choice that we are constantly doing, because we have been created to choose only love. And once we choose only love, we just finish our path of seeking the truth, because the truth is love. The truth is that we are love. And once we choose only love, we made what Jesus calls the fundamental option. There is a moment in the life of the soul in which the soul makes the fundamental option, which is the option that that soul will remain forever and ever. And that's the option of love, the option of living by the truth of what we are. And because we are love, choosing only love means realizing the purpose of God in you. And we are in a stage, in a dimension in which that is possible through taking options. So choosing only love is to make love the only option in your life.
Thank you very much. So we've got a couple of John, who's a regular here. John asks that your experience, I'm assuming he's talking about when you were 6, your experience was spontaneous. Are you aware of any practice that could facilitate the transformation you were talking about?
Yes, there is only one practice, and that is love. Because when we say Jesus, we are talking about divine love. When we say Mary, we are talking about divine love. When we say Christ, we are talking about love. So when we connect ourselves with love, we are being connected with God. So I would say that the only thing we need is to live in our heart, because in our heart is where we know who we are. So once we embrace everything that we are at this moment, let's say everything that I am feeling right now, everything that I'm thinking right now, and I embrace that through love, I'm allowing God to be more part of my life.
Okay. Thank
That's
you very much.
the answer to that question, going back to the heart.
Thank you very much. Michael Stacey, another co-host. Michael, I'm asking you to unmute. Do you want to ask your question there, mate?
Yes. Hello, everybody. My name is Michael, and actually, that was a message in chat from Donna L. And she writes, "Would Sebastian recommend the workbook at the back of the ACIM, A Course in Miracles book?" Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
I couldn't listen very well, David, so would you mind repeating that?
Would you recommend doing the workbook at the back of the Course in Miracles book? And that's from Donna Landy. Thank you, Donna.
Thank you, David. I would recommend to follow after your heart, because some people can find what they are looking for just using the first part of A Course in Miracles. Some others using all the book. In my case, I did all the book as it is reading, and I did my practices every day, and I repeated that practice, and then I started from the beginning to the end. And the reason why I do that is because in my case, it's very important not to take words out of context. The risk of taking just one part of the book instead of everything is that we can take things out of the context. And that is a very common mistake that we make, because there is a totality. There is a reason why one book is what it is. And my recommendation is always to go from the first page to the last page as it is, because there is a reason why that book is in that way. And we will understand more and more when we walk through all the book, no matter whether that is A Course in Miracles or A Course of Love or the Bible or whatever. However, not everyone has the same capacity of reading, that much sometimes. The good thing is that, based on what Jesus said to me once, is that the voice of the truth is always the same truth, and it's always the same voice. So we don't need to absorb everything to be connected with the truth. Sometimes we can use just part of the book, and that's more than enough. How do we know whether we have to read all the book or part of that book? Following your heart. If your heart says that you don't want to keep reading, just stop that, because that's what you have to do. So now our guide is our heart. So I would say that follow after your heart. Whatever your heart wants is perfect, because your heart knows.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Now I'm going to hand you over to our other panelist here, Joe C. Joe, do you want to come in, mate?
Sebastian, thank you very much. I don't believe that great truths ever contradict great truths. Like a great truth in science isn't contradicted by a great truth in a spiritual axiom. And it seems the messenger is not as important as your message. The whole idea of love, choose love. I should choose love in the way I make choices for myself. I should choose love in the way I make choices for my family and my community and others. Is there a worldview that would be in contradiction with that? I don't believe there is.
You are right. Based on the revelations that I received, there is never contradiction between a way of expressing the truth and also love. Sometimes the problem comes when we are focused on the form instead of the essence of that manifestation. But once we understand that the form is expressing something that is behind that form, we can go beyond symbols, and we can understand that the manifestation of the truth could be different, but at the same time being moved and expressing the same truth. So one of the conflicts that we have, and I also have before receiving the revelation from Christ, comes from the idea of when we believe that something cannot be the same and at the same time different. The truth is always the same, but the way of expressing that truth, the way of being manifested that truth could be different. But that doesn't mean that it's not the truth. It simply means that it's a way of expressing that. And in fact, your question is very important, Joe, because that revelation gave me the answer about our purpose of existence. We are, every single person is, and every single aspect of creation, including you and me, everyone is a particular expression of the divine love. The infinite love is expressed in infinite ways. Each way is different because we need to have an identity. No one can express love in the same way as I do with my heart. That's what Jesus said to me. And that's why you have been created, to express the truth and to express love within your uniqueness. But it's the same love. It is the same truth, no matter whether it is expressed through scientists or through philosophy or through whatever we want to express that. So I agree with you. There is only one truth, but there are infinite ways of expressing that truth, and that could be different and at the same being the same.
Thank you. That's another great answer. Thank you so much, Joe. Cheers for that, mate. And I just want, actually, you just got me thinking then, and you know, I was very impressed. We had a bit of a chat about rugby in our pre-interview meeting, and you know that you've got a family who are into rugby and stuff, which is quite a violent kind of a sport. It's it's a gladiator sport, I guess. You seem like a really peaceful, loving guy. What happens if you're on a rugby field and somebody gives you a belt on the chops, or you're in the street and somebody do you ever get angry, Sebastian? Do you ever feel yourself getting angry? Do you feel yourself does Jesus have to reach down and grab you by the scruff of the neck and give you a shake and say stop doing that, or are you just full of love all the time?
Thank you for that reflection. Getting anger is part of what we are.
Okay.
And it is absolutely in harmony with love. When we get angry because someone hurts us, or when we suffer because someone hurts us, that is because we know what love is, and we don't want to have any experience of lack of love. So it is perfectly in harmony with love to be angry. So love is all about embracing everything that I am at that moment, in this present moment, everything that I feel, everything that I think, and everything that I'm experiencing right now. Living by the truth means that I accept everything that is being in myself right now, here and now. If I feel angry and I say that I don't feel angry, I'm not living by the truth.
Sure.
Because the truth is that I'm feeling angry. If I feel sadness, I embrace that sadness. And that's very important. Your comment and your question is very important, David, because one revelation that I received, and it was a very transforming revelation for me, coming from our Immaculate Mother Mary, was that one of the deepest fears that we all have is about the fear of feeling. So we deny what we feel because we created some judgment for ourselves, and we say we don't have to feel this, or we don't have to feel that, because if I feel this, I'm not so holy, or I'm not good enough, I'm not peaceful enough, or whatever you name it. That is something that we have to change. We need to embrace everything that we feel and to feel it. And when we go beyond the fear of feeling and we accept everything that we feel in our heart and everything that we think in our mind, we will find something amazing, which is that there is life in every single feeling. And we will become more when we embrace that feeling, because the life that comes from the feelings and the emotions will allow us to be more alive. So when we deny what we feel or what we think, we are rejecting part of our being. So we are becoming less. There's no reason not to feel whatever you feel. I've never had that experience that you mentioned. No one came to do something like that to me. But there were other situations in which I was hurt. And because of my high sensitivity, that is very painful for me. And I feel that pain, and I embrace that. And I give it to Christ. Ooh. As it is.
So you hand it over?
Yes, I learned how to abandon my life into God, into love. So everything that happens to me, I just give it to him. Because that was what Jesus said to me. Give that to me. Your life belongs to me, not to you. So the only thing that you have to do is to give me your life. Remember, David, that is the question that Jesus asks to the soul when we die. And that question is happening right now in our soul. It is constantly being asked to our soul. Love is always asking to us, is asking us, do you give me your life? Are you ready to abandon your life in me? Because your life belongs to love. So I don't have to deal with my life. My life is not my business. My life is God's business. So I do whatever I feel, I take whatever I receive, and I give it to him. And I said, I cannot deal with this. So just do whatever you want. And I just forget about that. And I forgive.
Sounds very familiar. Step 6 and 7. That's wonderful. So we've got a few more questions. We're sort of into the final straight. We've got a few questions here from Jim. It's a really good one here. And Jim says, first, I must say that I'm glad that you survived your childhood accident. I wonder about your mother's survival. How is she, or how was she? And might you tell us about your relationship with Mary? What is her unique character like? And what are her contributions to the knowledge that you've shared with us?
Thank you also for those questions. I will go just a little bit back. You say that you are glad that I survived from that accident, but I had a question when I was 7 years old after the accident. Because I fell in love with Christ, I didn't understand why I was not chosen to die and to go to heaven. And I asked Jesus, why didn't you take me if it would be very easy for you to take me away from this world? Because I want to live with you. I want to live with you forever and ever and not be in this world. And he said to me, because you have a mission and I have a purpose for you and for everyone who is in the world. So you have to be in the world for the time it is needed. And it was given at that time the knowledge of why I was here and how important is our humanity and how important is our life, not only my life, but every single life. And I say this because I want everyone, including you, to know how sacred your life is, how holy your presence is in this universe. We are not here just because. We are here because there is a divine purpose. And that divine purpose is happening through you. And God wants you to be here. And you are so important, so beautiful, so holy, because you are expressing the divine life through your humanity, no matter how that life was. And asking your question about my mother, it was very difficult for her. I have it's a big family because I have 14 brothers and sisters, 7 brothers.
How many?
And 7.
Sorry, did you say 14?
14, 7 brothers and 7 sisters. So
wow.
I guess my mother was also quite busy, you know,
out, yeah.
with all the family. And talking about our Immaculate Mother Mary, she is the center of my life. Our Immaculate Mother Mary has been always with me. guiding me and giving me messages also with Jesus. They are always together in my life. And she is my mother. She's my divine mother. And I would say, just not to give a long explanation, I would say that our Immaculate Mother Mary is everything to me, as it is Jesus. So I don't make any distinction between Jesus and Mary. They are all the center of my heart.
Okay. Thanks very much, Jim. And just leading on that, and we talk about Mary and we talk about names, there's a lot of connotations that come with the church. But a lot of people in AA and this has been my experience, it might not be for everyone, but a lot of people in AA or NA have trouble with Christian the Christian doctrine, because of past experiences or from stuff they've heard. I just wondered whether Mary or Jesus has actually addressed those issues, because they're like, you go to like countries like in Ireland, for instance, where and I know there's people here from Ireland who, there's all sorts of stuff that happened with the Catholic Church, and I'm sure it happened in your country, which has been, has led to a lot of people being exploited, and a lot of deaths. There's a lot of guilt. There's a lot of shame, and I know it's all over the world. What does Mary and Jesus have to say about that in what's been done in their name?
Thank you also for that question, David, because I see this issue in almost every single group, and you are right. And Jesus gave me a very clear understanding about that I would like to share with you, because maybe it's useful for you as well. And he said, in the world of beliefs, there is always a space for separation or division. That's why it's so important to move from your mind to your heart. In the world of love, there's no space of division and separation, because we all know what love is and what it feels, and no one needs any explanation about love when love is present in his or her life. So it's very important for me to understand that Choose Only Love and everything that I receive, including the other books that I receive, are focused on love, on helping us to have the universal experience of the divine love, to help us to feel that relationship with God and to live within that relationship of divine love with Him, through which we can be transformed by love into more love and to extend that love in this world with our humanity. So it's all about love. Choose Only Love is not focused on beliefs. So there is a big distinction between religious and spirituality. Religious is the set of beliefs and acts that come from one specific tradition. But spirituality is all about our spirit, it's all about our heart, and it's all about our direct relationship with God. And everything that I receive goes to the spirituality and not to any particular religion. No matter whether I am Catholic or not, of course, because I am Catholic and I love the Catholic, spirituality that I receive. But we are called to go beyond those beliefs and beyond those symbols to the love that is behind. So Jesus and Mary are what we need to have in order to have our being integrated into the totality, because we all need a father and a mother. We all have a father and a mother. And as human beings, we need the feminine and the masculine. And Jesus is the masculine aspect of Christ, and Mary is the feminine aspect of Christ. But at the same time, they have everything in them because they are the totality. So both together allows me and everyone to live in the totality, because now we are in a stage of duality in which we think about the opposite. And in order to go beyond the duality, we need to integrate everything into the totality. So Jesus and Mary are the totality of my heart, and as it is the father and the mother, or the masculine and the feminine, we are called to return to the integrity of the self, to the integrity of what we are. And Jesus and Mary allows us together to remain in that totality.
Thank you. I was just wondering, am I having a conversation with Jesus and Mary now, or are you recalling information that they've given you in the past?
You mean right now, myself?
Yeah, speaking through you. Is that? I understand that we can all speak through it, but am I engaging with Jesus and Mary as I'm speaking to you now, or is this stuff that they've given you and they're having a rest or something? I don't mean to be flippant, but are we talking to Jesus and Mary now, or is this stuff that you remember, or that you've been told in the past?
We are talking to him and through him and with him right now. They
Wow.
are here with me, and they dictate to me what I have to say.
Fantastic.
And they move your heart and everyone. They are here present. And this gives me an opportunity to share something with you, David, that I sometimes share with some of the groups that I am in. And it is about what is happening right now in the mystical aspect of this gathering. Our Immaculate Mother Mary said to me that every time that we have these gatherings in which I am present, we will receive the grace of the embrace of Mary. And that means that sometimes during the gathering, it is shown to me how heaven is open and a choir of angels comes to this gathering, singing a song of gratitude to God the Creator for giving us existence and for the beauty of who we are. And within that choir of angels, our Immaculate Mother Mary comes to us, and she is next to each of us, and she embraces each of you, and including myself, and gives the soul a particular grace that soul needs at this very moment. And after doing that, she returns back to heaven, and the angels remain singing the song of gratitude to God for the creation. And the angels, Jesus and Mary, are with me, and they give me whatever we need in order to receive the answer, the questions, and more than that.
Wow, thank you very much. That was wonderful. That was beautiful. That was lovely. So there's just I've got Debbie's asked a question. Debbie's here, and this is a really good question, actually. Debs, thanks for asking that. Sorry, where are you, Deb? So, yeah. So, what happens if the soul says no when you're asked to give your soul to love? I'm assuming that's what Debbie's asking. What happens if the soul says no?
We are free to accept or not accept love, and that freedom has to be respected. And if we say no, we will keep living without love, having the experience of not being loved and not being able to express love. And God will give us more time, because time is not just this dimension in which we have bodies. There is a dimension of time without body, which means time after dying. And we will have more time to answer that question until we are ready to answer by the truth.
Okay. That's wonderful. Thanks very much, Deb. So listen, we're going to, one more question that I get to ask the last question. And just to remind everyone that Sebastian's website, I thoroughly recommend you go, and I say his books are, the first one that I've read was absolutely outstanding. But Sebastian's website is www.chooseonlylove.org. That's chooseonlylove.org, O-R-G. Where you'll find all his stuff and his books. And as I say, his books are available on Amazon, Choose Only Love. So just put that search in there and you'll see it. And as I said, I really enjoyed, I had an epiphany on a mountain in Spain thanks to your book. So I really do appreciate you coming along today. Final question, bit of fun. And this is the last question for this season. We're going to be back in September, as I say, September 2020. And the question is this. You've had book sales have gone fantastic, and Jesus and Mary have given you a couple of years off, and you've made $1 billion. So you decide to buy yourself a super yacht, Sebastian super yacht, and you set sail from Buenos Aires and sail down south around South America, and you head up into the South Pacific, and you've got all your worldly possessions on there and all your books and all your goodies and everything, and you're setting sail and you're having a great time in the sun. But then off the coast of Fiji, you run aground on a submerged coral reef and the boat starts to sink. The ship starts to sink rapidly and you've only got a couple of minutes. So you chuck all your family, you throw all your friends overboard, they swim to safety to a nearby deserted island. All you've got time to do is grab a plastic bag, you rush into your study and you look for your favorite book on the bookshelf, grab your favorite book, throw it in the bag, dive overboard, swim to safety and await rescue. And you've got a week or so and you've got your favorite book. Now, unfortunately, you weren't able to grab the Bible or the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. What was the book that you chose? Who was it by and why?
I wouldn't choose any book. I wouldn't buy any book. I would be enjoying the wisdom of my heart, because in my heart there is all the knowledge of heaven and I can enjoy everything that comes from my heart. We don't need books. We don't need to spend money. We just need to live by the truth in our heart. And when you see the wonders of your heart, you will see heaven. And when you see heaven, you will see a wisdom that is beyond your imagination. And your joy will be ineffable. And you will be truly happy when you know who you are. And that is not coming from a book.
Wow. Wow, what an answer. So thank you very much. And this is the last episode, as I say, so I do want to thank the crew that have been here all the way through. So Mike Stacey, Joe C, Lebowski, who've been fantastic. Also a big thanks to Anne Kay, who's not with us at the moment, but she was the one that got this up and running again. So thank you very much to my crew who've been awesome in the background. We are going to be back in September. I'd ask you, Sebastian, if you wouldn't mind hanging around afterwards. We always have 10 or 15 minutes afterwards where the people present can ask you a question and they don't have to listen to me. So if you wouldn't mind hanging around, but I'm going to stop recording now. Thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see.
Before stopping recording, let me say about this comment of the books, something that our Immaculate Mother Mary said to me once, and she is repeating right now. She said to me once, I will teach you how to read the book of your life. And that is what happens in our heart. And when we read the book of our life, we don't need anything else. And we can really enjoy being who we are. And we don't need to spend more money in buying books. Thank you.
Fantastic. You've just saved me a few quid every month. Thank you very much. That's wonderful.
And you can save money.
I'm going to cancel my Audible subscription. Thank you. That's awesome. Just by the way, do you have any? Do you do any kind of gatherings online on Zoom? And if people wanted to join you, should they go to your website to find out more information, or do you do Zoom satsangs, I guess, if that's the right word.
Yes, I do. And on the website, there is a page called events, not very creative, it's
No.
just events. And in there, you can see all the events to join us, and you are all welcome to join us. And you can send an email to me, and we can have a one-on-one session if you want, or to participate in the weekly or monthly gatherings that we have.
Wow, Sebastian, this has been fantastic. I'm going to sign off now. I'm going to stop recording. Thank you very much, everyone. See you in September.
Thank you, David.
Woohoo! Thank you very much. Cheers, Sebastian.
Thank you, David.
So, please, I know that I think Donal and Rita have got a question. I'm sure Jeb has as well. So I'm going to unmute. I think Donal's gagging to ask you a question. Donal in Ireland, and Rita, I'm going to ask you to unmute. Go for it, Donal. Rita doesn't. She's shaking her head. Yeah. I know she wants to.
Thank you, Sebastian. Really lovely and enlightening listening to you. You know what I mean, and feeling most of all. You know what I mean. When you came on, I thought it was Felipe Contepomi for a moment, and I said no, it might be one of the feelings or something like that. Because went down to Argentina back in the 40s from Ireland. When you were sharing and you were talking about love, and it came up, a song came back to me, and I said, and it was a song that was sung by a heroin addict to greet a Mahatma who had come to Ireland, and he was welcoming him, and he said, and it was, love is the opening door. Love is what we came here for. No one could offer you more. You know what I mean? Have your eyes really seen? They say it's very hard to leave behind the things we knew. Until you give your love, there's nothing you can really do. Love is the key we must turn. Freedom's the lesson we must learn. Do you know what I mean? Have your eyes really seen? And to me, love is what we're here for, and that I actually believe. And you carry a wonderful, beautiful message. I may not agree with Catholicism that I was brought up with. I had two uncles who were Catholic bishops, and one of them was a great man, and the other man was, well, he was different. Love has opened something inside, and that's why I come to these meetings, because love is in evidence with the people that come here and in the 12 steps. So it was lovely to hear and to feel what you're sharing. And I hope Argentina do well in the rugby.
David, I will say something, Sebastian. Before I came on, I was struggling with a question, in myself, a spiritual question, because I've been a bit disturbed the past few weeks with very negative thoughts in myself, which I felt were contradictory. And I was asking myself the question before I came on, when I was looking in the sink, what's the solution to this? I mean, what part of my program, what am I not practicing? That I have all these thoughts and I can't seem to change them at the moment. And the lovely thing is that when I listen to you, it all altered. And thank you. Yeah. Thank you,
and
Sebastian.
I thank you for your words and for being here. It's very important for me that you understand that we are all co-creating what is called the new earthly kingdom. The new earthly kingdom is right now here. It's not an idea. It's not a belief. It's the second creation. And that is co-created with all of us. You are co-creating the new, no matter whether we feel we are doing that or not. because our thinking mind is very limited and sometimes it doesn't understand. So I would like to thank you for being here, joining the light, and to extending the light. I thank you very much from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you, Sebastian.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Sebastian.
Thank you. That was worth the entry price alone, having Donal and Rita meeting you, Sebastian. They're here every week. They're wonderful, wonderful people. It's so lovely to see you both.
Thank
Um,
you.
Thank you. Debs, come on in.
Hi, I'd just like to say a huge thank you to all of these spirits in this room, these souls. It's been an extraordinary time being privy to some of the most juicy, delicious, divine, whatever that goes on. And thank you so much, Sebastian. Thank you for answering that question about when the soul says no, and that God says, well, you know, time, just give things time. Because through the very thing that Rita was just talking about, jarred things that go on, isn't it extraordinary how when we do give them time, we just kind of, whoa, okay, something has to be unraveling and revealing something else in this. How love does come in. And just in your speaking tonight, I felt this huge surge of comprehension about how often we can all do things from love and then get our knickers in a twist about it because we're doing it in different ways. And then actually it's all okay because all there is love. And we can just look over our shoulder or look across at someone else and go, I get it. You were doing that from love too. And there may have been a rock in the middle, but the water gushes through and just goes, hey guys, it's all about love. So thank you so much. I just want to say thank you because that shifted a big rock for me tonight. David Gilbank, I love you.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
I love you.
It's very good of you, Debs.
I love you.
Thank you,
Thank
Deb,
you.
for your gratitude, for expressing your gratitude. And there is some words from our Immaculate Mother Mary for you right now, and also for me and for everyone, based on what you said. And she says to you and to me and to everyone, you don't need to do great things. You just need to do small things with a great love.
Wow. As Josie said, that's perfect. Thank you very much. That's the truth. Now let's have the free thinker on. Jeb, how are you, mate?
Oh, I'm good. Thank you, David. And thank you, Sebastian, for your nakedness and you're just letting it all come out in your words and your interpretation. I just had a question to this because I've only well, you reminded me of two wonderful things. The little Jerry Jambalski book, maybe 40 some years old, saying teach only love, which I used to give to people when I first started sponsoring them in AA, because that put them on the path that is pretty much the Course in Miracles path. And then also mentoring one of the great mystics in my influences on me, Saint Teresa of Avila. And Christ has only our hands, our voice, all those things. So I am wondering if you've considered the idea that Yeshua, Jesus, Miriam, Mary, and the angels are actually your own sub-personalities, part of your innermost self that is communicating so beautifully with you on the outside and with the world.
Thank you for that dialogue and that thought. No, I have a clear knowledge that they are who they are, and I am who I am. And we are one in terms of being part of the same love and having the same source. But something that is very beautiful that I received from these revelations is that as much as I have a clear and direct and sensitive relationship with all of them, I regain more sense of identity, because I perfectly know who I am. And Jesus is Jesus, Mary is Mary, I am who I am. We are all different beings, different identities, coming from the same source, being one because of the purpose of our existence. But they are who they are, and I am who I am. And that's what God wants. He wants me to be who I am. And there is a whole chapter in Choose Only Love that talks about this. And Christ came to me once and says, trees were created to be trees. Birds were created to be birds. And you have been created to be who you are, because I love what you are. And that's why you exist. So I am who I am. And I am one of the expression of the divine love.
But all of these beings are not a part of you, Sebastian?
No, they are
There's
part
something
of the
separate.
creation. Exactly.
There's something separate from you. Okay, I just had to
Their
ask.
identity, yeah, their identity is the uniqueness, and that is separated from me. And we all have the same self, because going back to one of the answers that I gave in this dialogue, we are all the same because we come from the same source, but at the same time we are all different. So we are the same in essence, but different in the relationship. And in fact, the relationships are there to allow our uniqueness to exist. We are who we are within our uniqueness, within the relationship. So the relationship allows us to know who we are and to live in the knowledge of our uniqueness. In that sense, my identity, my uniqueness is separated and different from Jesus, Mary, and Archangel, as it is with you and with everyone.
It sounds to me like you're talking about identity formation. Is your identity formation a continuous process that you see yourself in the mirror differently today than you did 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 3 years ago?
Well, what is different 10 years ago or 15 years ago or 2 days ago is my personality. It's not my identity. It's not my being. My personality is one of the ways that I express my own identity in order to establish the relationship in this dimension. That is what is changeable. But my personality is just one of the manifestations that I use for expressing myself. What I'm talking about, my identity, is something that is behind and is beyond my personality, and that is unchangeable. That is unchangeable, and that's really beautiful, that knowledge, because something that I learned from my mind and from my consciousness and also from my heart is that every single experience in this world didn't even touch what I am, because what I am is unchangeable and it is eternal, and my personality is just the way I express myself in order to establish a relationship with time and space.
Okay, I appreciate your responses there. I just wonder also if you see yourself differently and describe yourself differently today than you did 5 or 10 or 20 years ago. But that's something to think about, because it's changed for me. I know that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Cheers, Jeb. That was wonderful. See you in September, mate. And let's give the last question or statement to our old friend John. Go for it, John.
Oh, Sebastian, that was great. I really enjoyed that. And that's coming from a lifelong agnostic. So I was brought up Catholic as well, but somehow it didn't take root. But I just I asked the question if there's any practice that humans can take advantage of that will sort of lead us all to that state of love and universal acceptance. Because I had an experience at the age of 15 that was kind of similar to yours. I was totally transcended. My thinking brain shut off, and I was just in a state of pure awareness for like 10, 15 minutes. And it was the most profound experience I had ever had, and it was just spontaneous. And that has affected my life and my interests, no question about that, what I studied and what I believe now to be true. But the thing is, I didn't have Jesus show up or anyone else when I had that experience. So I didn't have the advantages that you seem to have had. But I do appreciate that state of transcendence that you obviously had at a very early age. When I had mine, I didn't have anybody show up, but my question really revolves around the world as it and the current state of the world, because we seem to be going towards negativity and hate rather than towards love and unity. And with all of the things going on in the world, I'm not so sure the human race has time to get to the critical mass where most people will feel love rather than hate. And so that motivated my question about practices, because I'm a meditator and I find that that's very useful in dampening down the ego demands of myself. But is there any way that you can see that you can get a bigger number of people? Because there are very few of you around. And I'm not so sure you're widely read and understood enough to really reverse the direction that the world seems to be going in. So that's why I asked that question. And I don't know if you've reflected on that since, but do you have anything further to say about what we can do from being in the state of total unawareness, total ego-driven activity to a step closer to where we actually feel that universal love that I, to some extent, have experience with, and you experienced it in great quantities. So just one more comment would make me happy, and I'm glad you showed up.
Wonderful, John. Thanks, mate.
Thank you, John, for your words and for the purity of your expression. And there is an answer to your question, and the answer is, about your question of how to do that transformation, or how to move from one egocentric stage to the stage of love. And the answer is, let yourself be loved. It's as simply as that. If you let yourself be loved, you will be transformed by love. And that is something really important, because when our Immaculate Mother Mary said to me, let yourself be loved, and she insisted on that, let yourself be loved, I started to think, why this idea of letting myself be loved? And I realized how difficult it was for me to let myself be loved. But when I accepted that and I decided to abandon my heart into love and to let myself be loved, I started to fill my heart with love. And that love that fills my heart transforms everything. And I received the knowledge of the purpose of my existence. I knew at that moment that I was created to be loved. I didn't even was created to love. I was just created to be loved. When I am ready to let myself be loved, I fulfill my soul and my being and my heart with that love, And that love is extended by itself because what love is. So it's not about loving, it's not about doing anything, it's about just being who I am. And to be who I am, I need to receive that love. So the answer to that question is, let yourself be loved, and you will see the transformation.
Yeah, well, that's wonderful, Sebastian. And let me give you a small example of what I just experienced. Because when you talk about love, it sounds enormous, like an enormous concept, and it's very abstract. It's difficult for me to translate the word love into specific actions. But I had one just the other day. I began to get very annoyed with Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, even the ones I liked and the people I liked. And I began to get more and more negative. And I was in that state of mind for a number of days. And just at the end of that little period of time, I just raised my hand one day and shared. And that was the only action I could take to counteract my negativity. And it worked like magic, because by the end of that meeting, I was back in love with the people at the meeting, and I stopped being annoyed. So when you put it in concrete terms, even small things, even though you can't give it the label of universal love, even that can have an effect. And that's kind of as big a concept as I can get my particular spirit around.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, listen, we've kept you here too long. It's what's the time there? It must be, is it 20 to 6 in Argentina? So thank you very much for all your time. And just to say, everyone, chooseonlylove.org and all those books, Choose Only Love, are available on Amazon. Really grateful for you coming along. We might get you back next year. So it's wonderful. Thank you very much, Sebastian, and my very best to you. Thank you. And we'll stay in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
See you later, everyone. We're going to close it down in 20 seconds. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you later. See you, Sebastian.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was wonderful. I'll send you a link to the recording as well and the audio.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. 10. See you later, Bob. See you later, Donna. See you, James. See you, Mickey. See you, Jill. Good to see you, Jill. See you, Jean. See you later, Therese. See you, Joe. See you, Jeb. See you, Donald and Rita. And see you, Debs. Okay. And 5. And 4.